we hope that you'll be able to enjoy the performance. And so right now I'm going to be introducing you to Marie Sprayberry, who originally wrote the short story from which this play is based. So Marie Sprayberry is from Syracuse, New York. She's a member of our region. She retired in 2020 after 36 years of telecommuting for Guilford Publications, based in New York City, which publishes texts in mental health, self-help, and education and other disciplines. Lady Catherine de Bourgh is her first public work of fiction. It was part of a series called What Jane Austen Didn't Tell Us. And it originally was a project by members of the New York City region, kind of giving the backstory of Jane Austen characters. And Marie chose Lady Catherine, and she wrote this really fun story. There was a short run of actual physical books published of this book. You can now buy it as an ebook from Amazon. Lady Catherine de Bourgh is her first published work of fiction. Many of you may know Marie from her expertise on the Prince Regent, who of course we call Prinny. She's given many presentations at AGMs over the years, and she's basically a pretty expert at this point. And she knows all there is to know about Prinny and the Prince Regent and all his strangeness. Let's just call it that. Marie was regional coordinator for JASNA Syracuse until the Syracuse and Rochester regions were merged in 2015 to form JASNA Central and Western New York. And she continues to serve on the JASNA Central and Western New York Executive Committee. So I'm going to turn it over to Marie, who will continue the introductions. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. To say that I am an expert on Prinny does not make me a fan. I just want to make that clear at the outset. You are all familiar with Lady Catherine de Bourgh as she sweeps about dominating scenes in Pride and Prejudice. How did she become the imperious and slightly ridiculous narcissist we all enjoy? Today we have scenes from her early life before she appears in the novel. The playwright, Robert Moss, adapted as Lisa has said, adapted a backstory that I wrote for the Austen Alliance ebook, What Jane Austen Didn't Tell Us. As Lisa has said, the print run was very limited. It is now available only as an ebook from both Amazon and Barnes & Noble. I'm delighted that Bob Moss himself has been able to join us for this performance. Bob is probably best known to JASNA members for his adaptation of Lady Susan, which received a reading at the Morgan Library in Manhattan in connection with the 2012 annual general meeting in Brooklyn. But he's had a distinguished career of theatrical production and education all across New York State, serving as artistic director of Edward Albee's Playwrights Unit, Playwrights Horizons, the Queen's Theater in the Park, the Hangar Theater in Ithaca, and Syracuse Stage. Most recently, he has taught in Nazareth College's theater department. Our other actors, Bob will be taking the part, or rather parts, of actor 5. Our other actors include Jane Knoeck as actor 2, Jameson S as actor 3, and Aniela Wolkonowski as actor 4, all of whom take multiple roles as well as Bob. Jane may have to make the biggest stretch in the play to play Sir Louis de Bourgh in order to prevent her needing to have an actor 6. And I freely confess that as the writer of the original story, I exercise author's rights to the one role included in actor 1, Lady Catherine herself. I don't know if you can see this mug, but it was a break-a-leg present from one member of the Austen Alliance, Linda Dennery. Thank you, Linda.
Our story begins on the morning of the arrival of the new tutor at Bleaklow Park, the estate of the Earl of Bleaklow, where he resides with his countess and 3 children. Miss Sprotbrough, governess to the young girls, is welcoming the arrival of the new tutor to the young Viscount.
Welcome to Bleaklow Park, Mr. Rottenstall. I hope that you had a good journey and that you will find your life here to be worthwhile.
Thank you, Miss Sprayberry. My interview with the Earl was so brief. Goodness, I thought I had displeased him almost before I spoke.
Oh, nothing to fear on that account. The Earl's interests lie primarily with his many dogs and his equally numerous horses. Indeed, Mr. Goodfellow, the steward, is of the opinion that the interests of the estate would be better served if the Earl were to pay more attention to the farms, the tenants, and the livestock. But as only a steward, he is regularly ignored.
And the Countess, will she be overseeing us as to the education of the young Lord Derwent?
She will not. Nothing to fear on that account as well. The Countess has a natural meekness, or shall I say sweetness, and she tends to bend in the direction of any strong wind, be it coming from her husband or elsewhere. She will, from time to time, sit in and watch the lessons, and then she will feel it obligatory to give us some wisdom as to our teaching methods. We will nod and enthusiastically thank her. She will leave the room, and we will be free to continue doing our work. We are the educators of the young, Mr. Rottenstall, and we know our business. If we two will stand united behind our experience, we will be left alone with the children.
Children? The Earl only spoke of his son, young Viscount Derwent. Goodness me, are there more?
Oh, that is so like him. When he can tear himself away from those horses and dogs, he remembers his heir, Lord Derwent, but generally forgets to mention his two daughters, who will also be under our tutelage.
2 young ladies. My goodness, we will have our hands full. I have never been in a household with 3 children. How will we manage?
The 2 of us will manage very well, being left alone by the Earl and his lady. Derwent is the eldest and as thick as a post, but you are to prepare him for Harrow, that is all. I cannot make him out. Is he simply stubborn, like all little boys? Or somewhat deaf, perhaps, or just plain stupid? We will do our combined best with him and send him off.
The heir and stupid. England beware. But Harrow will break him, certainly.
There is the youngest, little Lady Anne, an angel, beautiful and sweet, like her mother. She seems eager to learn whatever I have to teach, and I have no doubt she will respond with alacrity to you as well.
You did say there were 3. Have you saved the best for last?
Not quite. Lady Catherine is the middle child, and you know what they can be like. She is most like her father, and he prefers her to Lady Anne when he pays the girls any attention at all. Lady Catherine is quite determined to lay out the order of her education herself, regardless of my guidance. She bullies her older brother and sometimes, to get her own way, reduces her baby sister to tears. She enjoys tormenting Derwent by taking his wooden soldiers away and playing at war with her sister's dolls, reducing both children to tears. She is the most imperious child I have ever encountered.
Goodness me.
Goodness has nothing to do with Lady Catherine. She has a passion for method and order, however, and that is the way to handle her. I have encouraged her to write down plans for her activities each day, lists of things to be done, and she has taken to these with alacrity. As we work through the lists, we can attack her grammar and spelling, which are atrocious. But these are 2 activities in which she is determined to go her own very original way.
One cannot be original with Latin. It is in itself the original language. Videlicet, it will not bear imagination. Tempus fugit, Miss Sprayberry. Carpe diem. We are, after all, in loco parentis, are we not? But the little girls will not receive Latin. That is reserved for the Viscount. I imagine I will teach all 3 children geography. Lord Derwent will also receive algebra, geometry, and some Greek.
Quite correct. And I am instructing the young ladies in reading, writing, history, penmanship, and elementary French.
No,
Come back, Lady Catherine, come back. You must the new tutor. Lady
No.
Catherine, stop.
No!
Oh dear, I'm so sorry, Miss Prospero. She is in one of her moods. She just struck Lord Derwent with the captain of the guards, the wooden one, and quite knocked his head off. The wooden one, I mean. Lord Derwent is quite upset, and the sight of the beheading has brought Lady Anne to tears. Lady Catherine, come back!
No!
Welcome to Bleaklow Park, Mr. Rottenstall.
Post tenebris lux. Miss Sproutbrower, perhaps I shall begin this morning with the wounded Lord Derwent. And if there was to be a bit of glue, I could restore the head of the captain to his corpus.
Prot, who is this new person in our day nursery?
Oh, good morning, Catherine. How nice you look this morning. Let me introduce you.
Please, Sprott, I am Lady Catherine, to you and all the whole world, and especially to strangers.
Oh, forgive me, Lady Catherine. Let me introduce you to the new tutor, Mr. Rottenstall. He will be replacing Mr. Gogarty, who left us, you will remember, after that pot of tea accidentally spilled into his lap.
Yes, I do remember. Gogarty was exceedingly clumsy. I am not to be trifled with, Mr. Raw. Mr. Stall, what is your name again? I think it is too complicated. Please simplify it.
The quid pro quo between us, Lady Catherine, will be this. I will call you by your full name and title, and you will call me by my full name and title. I am Mr. Raw Tin Stall, and will be called thusly in perpetuum. Do we have an agreement?
I am not sure that I like this plan of yours, Mr. Whatever.
De gustibus non disputandum est, Lady Whoever.
I think it is time for lessons. Let us adjourn to the schoolroom. I will find Lord Derwent and try to restore the corpus of the captain of the guards to his head. Lady Catherine, will you please find your sister Anne and lead Mr. Rottenstall there? We have had enough dallying this morning. Worksop, will you see that there is milk for our studies in the schoolroom?
Milk for the children in the schoolroom. Yes, miss. I will see to it. Mrs. Fishlake has baked some bread this morning, and Lord Derwent always seems to be more agreeable when he has had a bit of bread and butter with his milk. As does Lady Catherine. I have noticed.
About it then. Step lively. This way, Mr. Rottenstall, to the schoolroom.
Ad Victorium.
A few years pass, and we join the Lord and Lady at breakfast.
This coffee's cold, my dear Countess. The bacon is greasy, and the scones are dry as dust. Am I not to have a decent breakfast in my own house?
You slept very late this morning, my dear, and your breakfast has been sitting patiently by for more than an hour. Mrs. Fishlake is already preparing our dinner, and our daughter Catherine has been sitting in the library, anxiously waiting to talk to you. She has been unusually patient.
That means she wants something.
Yes, I believe this is true, but she has not revealed her quest to me. You will have to see her.
Works up.
Must you shout so? Can you not ring the bell, which we installed, if you recall, for that very purpose?
Bell be blasted.
You called, my lord? What is your pleasure?
Pleasure? I have no pleasure. Firstly, I want some hot coffee, if Miss Fishlake would be so kind. And secondly, please tell my daughter Catherine in the library that I will see her in 5 minutes and not a moment before. Is that clear?
It is very clear, your lordship. But the coffee will take a bit of hotting up. Lady Catherine will be with you in 5 minutes.
The servants are getting slack, my dear, and you must be more strict with them. I cannot do everything myself. Catherine is demanding, to be sure, but she has some spunk. Pity she wasn't a boy. She's got twice as much spirit as Derwent and Anne put together. Not hard to tell which of them takes after the Fitzwilliam and which takes after your own family of bloodless London tea merchants.
If you say so, my dear. Derwent does try very hard, I know, but everything just seems to mystify him so. And Anne is a little angel. Everyone says so who sees or who meets her.
Yes, very well. Now here's the matter, my dear. Our income from the estate has been lessening of late, and we must try to make economies wherever possible. Whenever I see Worksop, she seems to be sitting about. Can we not get rid of some of the servants? Get along with fewer people hanging about? And cannot Worksop do more? Surely.
Worksop does the best she can. Goodness, she has been with your family since you were at school. She brought you up.
We cannot afford to be sentimental, my dear Countess. We must be practical. Find a way to get rid of 2 or 3. Now, I've heard of an opportunity to be involved in a new venture in the colonies with Mr. Clarence Newbigin. Remember, we met him last season in London. He's organized a company buying tea at wholesale prices. A bargain, my dear, from the East India Company, and they are shipping it to the Massachusetts Bay Colony.
My dear Lord Bleaklow, have you considered this carefully? You must know that Twinings have been established tea sellers in Boston for some years now. I have heard that their governor himself buys tea from Twinings, and my father and my brother have both spoken of his venture and consider Mr. Newbigin's proposal most unsound.
Your family, the Pattersons, not as half the businessmen that Mr. Newbigin is.
If you will forgive me, my brother believes that Mr. Newbigin's tea will be of an inferior quality. That is perhaps why it is less expensive. Besides, I hear that the colonists in Massachusetts are very upset about the taxes on their tea. I have heard both my father and my brother speak of it. Pray, do not risk our dwindling funds on such a dubious venture.
Nonsense. The Twinings can sell all the tea that they like to the governor of Massachusetts. But there's a profit to be made from the common herd. The colonists will go for the cheaper price and not notice the difference. What do they know about tea anyway? And King George will quash any unhappiness about their taxes, believe me. The colonies are upset indeed. And I care not for the Pattersons' opinions. Your father's grown old, your brother's a timid rabbit. I shall direct Coots to make the investments with Newbigin immediately.
Of course, you know best. And I hear Catherine coming.
Papa, I know how busy you are, and so I have made a list of the items I wish to discuss with you. I am glad you are sitting down. Are you ready?
Made a list, have you? Very businesslike. That's the Fitzwilliam blood in you.
Primus, then. I have heard Mr. Rottenstall tell Derwent that that is a good way to begin a proposal. Primus, Anne must have her own pony. She's always taking Sutton out just exactly when I want to go riding, and the groom says Sutton cannot do 2 sessions in a row, and it just makes me as cross as a bear. You gave Sutton to me, I named her, and I must be the only one to ride her.
Have you not noticed, child, that I'm selling horses now, not buying them? I have no monies available to buy Anne her own pony. It's absurd.
But Papa!
But nothing. You two will simply have to share Sutton. Make one of your damn lists or schedules as to who will ride when. A new list is cheaper than a new pony.
I think that is extremely unfair. To give me a present and then to take it away. Papa is very stingy of you. I have never heard such a thing in all my life.
Your life has not been very long yet. You will, I'm sure, hear stranger things as you grow up. Is there more in your list?
Well, I think it is very shabby behavior. However, secundus, I must learn the pianoforte. I know I have a good taste in music, but I need to become accomplished at singing and playing if I am to get a rich husband of rank. Neither Miss Sprotborough nor Mr. Rottenstall can teach music, not singing nor playing. Therefore, you are to engage a music master for our education.
If you will allow me, my lord, there is something in what Catherine says. Though it is a bit soon for the girls to be thinking about husbands, developing those talents early will be a boon.
Rich husband of rank. Is that what you want, my little Catherine?
It seems to me that is what every young woman must desire. I want a big house so that I can have many balls and elegant dances and huge dinners and invite all the nobility and gentry in the county.
Did you consider me a rich husband of rank when you married me, my dear?
Well, I think there is great merit in what Catherine proposes. I was an obedient young woman, and my father sought only my welfare when we were married.
Well. Getting you and Aaron married will not solve our current difficulties, but I will think on it and perhaps try to find you and Anne a music teacher. Now I think I deserve some hot coffee before the morning is quite over.
The music teacher arrived in short order. Signor Pomodoro, famous all over Italy, the Earl was told, just happened to be visiting in the area for the summer and was graciously willing to take on 2 young ladies for a not inconsiderable sum. It has now been a little over 2 weeks since the girls have been under his tutelage.
My lord, Signor Pomodoro is urgently requesting an audience with yourself and the Countess. He seems very upset.
Upset, hey? I'll upset him. That racket from the music room never sounds like music to me.
Oh, no, dear, try to be patient. The girls are young.
They wanted a music tutor, not just Catherine, Anne too. And it's been costing us a pretty penny, let me assure you. Luckily, Derwent is now at Harrow, and he'd been caterwauling with them.
Ah, signores, struggimento, I am in tormento. I am in extreme pain, allora. I have been here 16 days, and no longer can I remain with your Lady Caterina. Lady Anna, si, no problema. But the other one, Dio mio.
Oh, calmate, Signor Pomodoro. Tell us what can be the matter. The girls were so eager to have lessons with the most famous tenor in all of Italy.
Who just happened to be staying in Derbyshire.
Si, I am visiting cousins here. Allora. Lady Anna, she do very well for una ragazza so young. Andiamo avanti, conquista mia storia. Lady Caterina, Dio mio, I can no longer try. She have no talent for la musica. I say andante, she go allegro. I say allegro, she go andante. I ask for a C, she play a D. I ask for a D, she give me a C. She have no ear for la musica. She have an ear of tin and a will of iron. Always she thinks she right and I wrong, Mozzafiotto. She amazed me. Me, Luigi Pomodoro, the most famous tenor in all of Italia.
Oh, but dear signor, she wanted this so badly.
Ah, she want, but she no can do. She tell me I am wrong. Me, Rocambolesco. This I cannot endure. Pay me for the fortnight and I go.
Oh, but...
A bargain. Works up.
The bell, dear, the bell. I am so sorry at the unfortunate conclusion of our arrangement, Signor Pomodoro.
I also, Signora.
You called Lord Bleaklow?
Give Signor Pomodoro his fortnight's pay and show him the door.
Goodness. Yes, my lord. It shall be done. Mr. Pomodoro, will you come this way?
Buongiorno, Lord and Lady Fitz. Buona fortuna.
And these 2 letters just arrived for you, Lord Bleaklow.
Last, I've left my spectacles upstairs. My dear, will you read them to me?
Certainly. They are both very short. The first one is from Mr. Coots at the bank. My dear Lord Bleaklow, we regret to inform you that on the night of 16 December 1773, a group of colonists in Massachusetts calling themselves the Sons of Liberty disguised themselves as Red Indians, boarded a ship in Boston Harbor, and threw an entire shipment of your tea into the harbor. Oh, heavens! Therefore, it is my sad duty to inform you that your account with us is now at a perilously low level. Oh, dear, oh, dear.
Oh, dear indeed. Last. Well, we've saved some money with the Italian gone. Who is the other one from?
It's from Mr. Newbigin, and it's much the same news. Oh, he adds that the colony is now seething with rebellion, and his tea company is being dissolved. And those colonists have sent a challenge to King George. Dear me, what shall we do, dear?
Papa, what does this mean? I just saw Signor Pomodoro in the hallway, and he was very insulting, and he said arrivederci, which I am sure means goodbye. He had his trunk with him, And then he slammed the door and went away. What is happening?
It means he is gone.
He has been called back to his family in Italy.
And these letters also mean that we have very little money left for our luxuries, not even of any kind.
I had thought that my acquiring a variety of musical skills was not a luxury, but an essential accomplishment to securing my future. I am most seriously displeased. Papa, whatever shall we do?
We must retrench, my dear. We must retrench.
And as part of the retrenchment, the Countess, without telling her husband, wrote an urgent letter to her parents. The response was not immediate, but it afforded some relief to the Countess when it did arrive.
I have had the most wonderful letter from my parents, my dear. They will enable Derwent to finish with his form at Harrow, and even more generously, will ensure his continuing education at Cambridge.
Very generous indeed, but they can well afford it.
Well, there is more. They will provide a London season for both girls once Lady Anne turns 17. Oh, how wonderful that will be. Our girls will be shown at their very best.
This is not to be borne. No season of my own, no season until I am 20, and then I must share it with Anne. More sacrifice is being asked of me than of anyone else.
My dear, you are not the only one who will have to make sacrifices. For example, my family have refused to consider a grand tour for Derwent.
But Derwent has already made useful acquaintance at Harrow and may make more at Cambridge. How am I to make any acquaintance, let alone find a proper husband, with nothing better in reach than the assemblies at Derby until I am 20? This is false economy, and Anne should not be allowed to make her London debut alongside me. The younger sister out at the same time as the elder, and before the elder is married. This is a scandal.
Hold your tongue. You'll take the Pattersons' terms and like it. We all must.
This is insupportable.
Insupportable indeed. Tell your daughter she's lucky to have such generous grandparents. The Pattersons simply recognize that having the girls meet men who will be able to support them and perhaps at the same time contribute to the family fortune is a good investment.
Yes, dear. And here's a cheerful letter from Derwent. He says he is doing well with his studies and enjoying his school life. Well, isn't that pleasant news? Oh, and look, he mentions having become great friends with a Mr. George Darcy of Pemberley, near Lambton and Bakewell. Well, those towns are on the other side of our own Derbyshire, if I'm not mistaken.
A Darcy of Pemberley? Oh, yes. I remember running into a Darcy of Pemberley at Heidelberg on the Grand Tour. Bit of a stick. He had all he could do to keep that other fellow, Lewis or something, from falling headfirst into the lager. Bit discreetious, though. I wonder if this Darcy has got any sisters.
I will write to Derwent and ask him to find out. That would be a blessing, wouldn't it?
Aye, that'd be a family for Derwent to marry into, by God, if he had anything like the Bleaklow spirit.
Derwent does not mention any sisters in this letter, dear. He only describes Mr. Darcy as a fine and true gentleman.
My lord, the steward, Mr. Goodfellow, is here to speak with you. May I show him in?
Show Goodfellow in. Ah, Goodfellow, I hope you are the bearer of some good news. We are sorely pressed for some of these days.
Good news indeed, my lord. We have managed to sell a large portion of the estate's timber, including almost all our oak trees. King George is taking a firm stance since the colonists went into open revolt over the tea. Our Royal Navy has demanded hearts of oak, as England is now in a fever of shipbuilding.
Aha, something good has come of that tea disaster after all.
I'm sure that's very good news indeed.
May I make another suggestion, my lord, to satisfy and quiet some of our more aggressive creditors?
I will not sell any more of our lands. The Bleaklow estate must be transmitted intact to the Viscount Derwent and to his heirs.
No, my lord, I understand. But we might mortgage some of the acreage that is not already under mortgage. It will quiet the creditors for the time being and keep them at bay.
Fine, go ahead, be conscious. Not too many acres, mind, but keep them all at bay, certainly.
And we might consider reducing the stables, the kennels, the number of horses, and the number of dogs. They're a great expense, my lord.
What's life without sporting? Leave the horses and the dogs for now. Let's wait for the effects of the additional mortgages.
Very good, my lord. I will see to it. And a very good day to you both, lord and lady.
He seems a very capable steward. I think we are lucky to have him.
I have been thinking in my room about this retrenching, and I have made a list of some domestic economies. May I read it to you?
Oh, by all means. That is very good of you to take such an interest.
We have too many servants. Some of them can be made redundant. Mrs. Fishlake can handle the kitchen by herself, and Worksop can do everything else. I also think, Mama, we can serve smaller joints of meat at dinner. Too much goes to waste and encourages high living among the servants. And lastly, we have too many horses and dogs in the stables and kennels. We should get rid of most of them. They are noisy, they eat too much, and they require too many stable workers to see to them.
Not another word about my horses and my dogs. We have retrenched enough.
And indeed, the good efforts of Mr. Goodfellow managed to stave off some of the more aggressive creditors. A few years later, a letter arrived with potentially good news.
Oh, here's a letter this morning, my lord, from our son at Cambridge. This will cheer us up. You'll be happy to hear from your brother, won't you, Catherine?
I have been writing to him quite regularly in the hopes of becoming acquainted with some of his eligible classmates, and I have not had the courtesy of a single reply. Not being introduced in London is quite a handicap for a young woman, and I have been hoping that my brother will be looking out for his sisters and their fortunes.
He has enough to worry about at school without bothering his head about your fortunes. I just hope he's making the right connections with men who will be able to put him onto good investments and lend him money.
Oh, dear.
What is it, Mama? You've gone quite pale.
Yes, well, it seems our own Viscount Derwent, upon reaching his majority, has decided he no longer needs to discuss his affairs with his father.
What has the boy done without discussing what with me?
He has eloped with the daughter of the Bishop of Ely, a Miss Mary Keene, who has gone conveniently unmentioned in any of his prior missives.
Works up.
Does she have any brothers, do you think? We must find that out at once.
Yes, my lord?
Brandy, and be quick about it.
But you have the key, my lord, to the cabinet.
Blast and double blast. Here, and hurry.
If she is a daughter of a bishop, this may be a very good thing for him. I never knew him to take much interest in the church.
I never knew him to take much interest in anything.
Catherine, your brother is much changed since he went to Harrow. His letters have been lively and interesting, even though he did fail to mention Miss Keene.
Maybe too lively. Brandy!
Here, my lord, 2 glasses, and a bottle.
I only require 1 glass. Bring it here.
I believe I might just have a sip myself.
Bit of a shock, eh, my dear? Not too much now. You're not used to it. Well, let's think on it. Ely, that's right near Cambridge. One of the bishop's daughter has been scouting on the Cambridge Elite for a suitable match. She might not have noticed that our famously beautiful Bleaklow estate is heavily mortgaged, and he clearly did not think of that circumstance when he went looking for a wife.
How could Derwent be so selfish? First, neglecting his duty to help bring financial security to Bleaklow, and second, failing to ally himself with a family who could help his sisters find suitable husbands. Outrageous, disrespectful son.
You will keep those thoughts to yourself, Lady Catherine. When he met Miss Keene, he may not have had mortgages or estates on his mind. We will all write and send Viscount Derwent and his bride all our congratulations, and we will look forward to a visit from them in the very near future.
It's more than 100 miles away, my dear. They won't be coming till the end of the Easter term, at least, and she will probably be with child by then. We'll have to look to our 2 daughters to make more advantageous matches.
We're certainly not going to make any advantageous matches here in Derbyshire.
Now remember, Catherine, that your grandparents have promised you and Anne a season in London, and this will give you ample opportunity to meet eligible suitors, and that will be soon enough. And where are you going, your lordship, and why are you taking the brandy bottle?
I feel desperately the need for some air. I think I'll take the dogs out for a run. Work's up.
I'm going to tell Anne the news. Won't she be surprised that we have a new sister who is a daughter of a prince of the church?
You will be careful, my dear, won't you?
Yes, my lord?
Tell Nigel to saddle my horse. I'm going for a ride.
Shall I put the brandy back in the cabinet?
I'll restore the brandy to the cabinet when I've had sufficient. Where's that blasted Nigel?
Sadly, it must be reported that the Earl of Bleaklow never returned from his brandy-infused ride. He was found in the stable, dead of an apoplectic stroke. A year of mourning followed. The new Earl and his new Countess arrived at the heavily encumbered Bleaklow estate. The Patterson family's benevolence soon brought the family to London, and the new Earl, or Derwent, as his family continued to call him through force of habit, began escorting his sisters about London. One evening, he took them to the opera.
Here are seats in this little box. I thought you would enjoy sitting up here and being able to look down and see all the people in their finery. It's quite the glittering crowd. I'm sure you will enjoy Mozart's opera. It is definitely the talk of the town.
It's an extraordinarily beautiful little theater, is it not? And there's such an excitement in the crowd of people, all of whom are so beautifully dressed. I do feel a bit like a country mouse, but it's very sweet of you, Derwent, to fuss over your sisters.
I do believe, Anne, that in that brief period when we had Signor Pomodoro with us, we each studied a song from this very Figaro. Although I remember remarking that a play or an opera, no less, about the marriage of a footman could hardly be interesting to many people. And it was in Italian.
But the music was very beautiful. Do you not remember?
I remember that I made Pomodoro translate my song into English so I would know what I was saying. Mine was something like dove sono or something like that in Italian. But even in English, where are my moments of sweetness or something? Too tiresome. And even when I sang it in English, he criticized me. And to make it all worse, the Italian was a translation of the French and...
Darcy, by Jupiter. I was starting to wonder whether we'd see him in town this winter. There, he's seen us. I believe he's coming up to join us. He was with me at Harrow and Cambridge.
He is indeed quite a handsome gentleman.
And the Darcy estate at Pemberley is worth a clear 10,000 per annum. So I have heard. But who is that older gentleman with him? Not his father, surely.
No, that's Sir Lewis de Bourgh. Got a knighthood of the Bath through a court connection. Estate called Rosings Park, near Hunsford, Kent. Great friend of old Mr. Darcy. Fortune's not so good as Darcy's, but good enough at 7,000, and not entailed from the female line either. Childless widower, recently out of mourning. You could do worse, Cat.
My preferences do not run to portly middle-aged knights with red faces and gaudy waistcoats. Why, pray, might you not consider Mr. Darcy for me?
Well, Darcy has such a refined taste in music.
But I have a superior taste in music. I fail to understand what you are insinuating.
I believe the gentlemen are approaching.
Darcy, you old rascal, I'm delighted to see you. And Sir Lewis de Bourgh, isn't it? It's very good to see you too.
Well met, Bleaklow, but I do not see your lovely wife with you. Does she not care for the opera?
Bad cold. She'd be sneezing throughout. She'd be miserable, and so I'm afraid would the singers be. But here are my sisters in her stead, Lady Catherine and Lady Anne Fitzwilliam.
Delighted to make your acquaintance, Lady Catherine.
And yours as well, Lady Anne. Do you think you'll be enjoying the opera, ladies?
I hope so, but I hear that they are going to sing in Italian. What a shame. Such a vulgar tongue, and we will have no idea what is happening. We are an English audience. Why should we not sing in English?
Well, perhaps they might, Lady Catherine, but then it would not be near so much like an opera.
Our teacher, whom we had with us a very short time, tried to teach us the bel canto style of singing. I think he called it, if I remember, excessive fioritura, but we were not quite up to it.
I was perfectly well up to it, but I just did not enjoy it until I learned it in English.
I am entirely of your opinion, Lady Catherine. English for Englishmen. You're quite your father's daughter. I remember the Earl saying much the same when Mr. Darcy's father and I met him on the grand tour. He was a plain man, no pretensions, meat and potatoes for him every time.
I say, Bleaklow, Sir Lewis and I have been planning a ball at my house in Hanover Square for next week. Why don't you come and bring your lovely sisters? What good fortune that you're all in town. Ladies, what do you say?
I am sure we'd be delighted, Mr. Darcy. Don't you think so, Anne?
Yes, of course. It would be a wonderful treat for us. Thank you, Mr. Darcy, and Mr. Lewis.
And if your wife has recovered from her cold, Bleaklow, she will join us as well. It'll be like old times. And if you like paintings, Lady Anne, you will enjoy my home. I have some beautiful landscapes.
I have always enjoyed paintings. We have a house full of them at home.
But you're your father's daughter. I know he liked pictures of dogs and horses and fox hunts. You come to my house, Lady Catherine. You'll see some wonderful dogs.
I think the opera's about to begin. We had better all be seated.
Next Friday evening in Hanover Square at 8 o'clock then. I look forward to seeing you both.
And I, too, enjoy the opera as best you can, Lady Catherine.
Well, what a jolly treat that was. Darcy was with me when I met Mary. He's a delightful chap, very thoughtful and very intelligent. Everyone always likes him immediately upon meeting him. Did you like him, Anne?
I felt him to be very genuine and without pretension.
That's Darcy to a T. And Catherine, you certainly were captivating, Sir Lewis. He had a twinkle in his eye that I've never seen there before. Perhaps we should be thinking about 2 new gowns for the ball next week.
I wasn't captivating anyone. What nonsense. But new gowns would be a very good idea.
And so, true to their word, the gentlemen held a ball 1 week later to which both Lady Catherine and Lady Anne were invited. The preparations were exhausting.
I'm so proud of both of you girls. You look so beautiful. Your first London ball. It's thrilling, and I know you will have a wonderful time dancing and meeting new people. Catherine, as you are the elder, you must look out for Anne.
If time permits, I will try to be certain that Anne behaves properly, but this is an important opportunity for me to impress Mr. Darcy with my superior wit and intelligence. I may not have time to instruct my little sister, who is, I am persuaded, too young to be attending a ball at all.
Oh, but do try, Catherine. Now, here are my emeralds, which the Earl's mother gave me when we were married. Anne, your gown is so simple that I think these jewels will give it an air of elegance to match a more elaborate gown that your sister chose.
No, Mamma. As the elder, I must wear the family jewels. The emeralds match my eyes so well. These seed pearls will do very nicely with Anne's white gown, don't you think?
I will be perfectly happy with the pearls, Mamma.
As long as you are both satisfied. The important thing is to behave courteously to all the different people you are going to meet from all stations of life, and to be yourselves at all times, gracious, charming, and true.
Anne is still too young and inexperienced to be much in company. It will be far better for her to keep to the background for her first few balls at least, and learn how people comport themselves.
While I am excited at the prospect of this ball, I am not at all fearful of possibly embarrassing myself in front of any of those people.
And you certainly should not even hope to monopolize Mr. Darcy's attention as you did at the opera last week. We have only just met him, and as the host, he will have much to do. He may not ask either of us to dance, and if he does, I, as the older sister, must be the one he asks. Now, I must go and find some gloves to go with this gown. Hurry now, we should be leaving shortly.
Your dear sister has very strong opinions about the behavior of other people, but she is right in one thing. Mr. Darcy is giving this ball. He will have invited many people, and he will have much to do to see that it all goes well. Anne, did you monopolize Mr. Darcy at the opera, as Catherine claims?
Sir Louis de Bourgh engaged Catherine immediately upon the subject of Italian opera, and I was left with our brother and Mr. Darcy. Naturally, we talked, and I understand my sister very well. She has, in her own eyes, suffered greatly under our more strained circumstances, especially since Papa's death. She is very concerned for her future, and when Derwent pointed out Mr. Darcy at the opera, Catherine immediately spoke of the size of his estate. I thought it was somewhat inappropriate, but Derwent did not chide her for it.
So Derwent recounted to me. He thought that Sir Louis was immediately attracted to Catherine, and that it might be a good match. It is not uncommon for an older man to wed a younger woman, and those marriages often succeed very well indeed. What did you think of Mr. Darcy?
Well, we only had a brief conversation in the box at the opera, but I believe that he is highly intelligent, sensible, and honest. He doesn't seem to put on any airs or attributes, but speaks his mind directly from his open heart. If I may presume, I felt myself drawn to him immediately.
Oh my goodness. Well, we have a very exciting evening ahead of us. I'm sure Derwent and Mary are waiting for us at the carriage. Let us get your sister and be on our way.
At the ball, Sir Louis, sporting a vivid green waistcoat, was seen approaching the sisters immediately upon their entrance, as if he had been waiting for them personally.
Your humble servant, Lady Catherine, delighted. Pray may I entreat the honor of the first 2 dances with yourself? Indeed, your necklace is such a fine match for my waistcoat that we seem to have been foreordained to have the first dances.
But I really, oh dear. Yes, of course.
And Lady Anne, may I hope for the honor of opening the ball with you?
I fear my sister will be offended, Mr. Darcy. She thinks I am full too young to be much in company, and I should keep to the background.
I must take the liberty of disagreeing with the estimable Lady Catherine on both counts. Far from remaining in the background, you and I will open the ball. Your young years suit you perfectly, and in any case, Sir Louis has already claimed your sister for these dances, a fact that allows me, I must confess, to pursue my own inclination.
As Mr. Darcy led Lady Anne to the head of the dance, Lady Catherine's fiercely blazing eyes threatened to overpower both her emeralds and Sir Louis's bright green waistcoat. However, her displeasure did not deter the courageous Mr. Darcy, and in due course the impending marriage of Mr. George Darcy of Pemberley, Derbyshire, to Lady Anne Fitzwilliam, younger daughter of the late Earl of Bleaklow, Bleaklow Park, Derbyshire, was announced in the next issue of The Gentleman's Magazine. The forthcoming nuptials of Sir Louis de Bourgh of Rosings Park, Kent, and Lady Catherine Fitzwilliam, elder daughter of the late Earl of Bleaklow, were announced in the issue following that one.
The only unusual detail of these 2 announcements was that the respective marriages took place at the individual bridegroom's estates rather than at Bleaklow Park. Although the Gentleman's Magazine did not note the reason, the truth was that Mr. Darcy insisted on being married at Pemberley the moment he beheld Lady Anne's dismay at the mere thought of a double wedding. Lady Catherine thereupon insisted on being married at Rosings, and Sir Louis, who thought a double wedding would have been very good fun, was nevertheless happy to comply.
The girl's brother, the new Earl of Bleaklow, was relieved not to have to host a double wedding at Bleaklow Park with an elaborate and expensive wedding breakfast to follow. He gave away both of his sisters with great good humor, and in Lady Catherine's case, with considerable, though tactfully concealed, relief.
6 short years later, Lady Catherine de Bourgh was visiting Pemberley with her little daughter Anne, a quiet, almost sullen child. Running noisily about was Lady Anne's handsome son, Fitzwilliam. The indefatigable worksop was still in attendance, trying to control the children. She finally led both little ones out of the room with the promise of sweets, leaving the two sisters alone.
Is little Anne under the weather, sister?
No, she plays the invalid to vex me whenever we are in company. She runs all over Rosings, singing noisily and perfectly cheerfully. The housemaids tell me she is a perfect delight.
Fitzwilliam is being a good host, trying to entertain her. But she does seem resistant.
No, that is just her playful way. Actually, I was thinking what a fine little couple they make, sister. Do you not agree? Can you not see them marrying someday and uniting our two great estates?
What an astonishing thought. Fitz is only 5, and your little Anne is, what, 2? To be thinking of them mating seems somewhat premature, don't you think?
Not a bit of it. One cannot plant these seeds early enough. If they both know that their union is foreordained, they can begin the process of growing together all the sooner, and the sooner the better. Let them get used to the idea early.
Perhaps little Anne could begin by being a trifle more polite to her cousin.
And your Fitzwilliam can begin to adapt to her charming little moods. And it will be a great comfort to Sir Lewis and me to know that our Anne will be so well married. As our only child...
But surely Anne may not be your only child.
There will not be another, I am convinced. Sir Lewis has complained recently of poor wind and the flying gout, and with reason, I think. I am much concerned about his eating and drinking, which are certainly immoderate for a man of his years and his weight. I have recommended his leaving off port, taking smaller portions of beef, and trying Dr. Wellfleet's patent elixir. But he only replies that he will not start eating like a Frenchman and taking quack medicine at the age of 54.
Well, we have plenty of time to consider the conjugal futures of our children as they grow older. And they may begin to have ideas of their own, may they not?
Tosh! The old maxim about children being seen and not heard is always sound advice. And mercy, look at the time. We must begin our journey home. Give my regards to Mr. Darcy, and I am so glad we have settled these children's futures.
Have a safe journey back to Rosings. You have given us much to think about.
Lady Catherine's concerns about Sir Lewis's health were realized before Anne reached her 8th birthday. It might have been some small posthumous comfort to Sir Lewis, as a patriotic Englishman, a hearty eater, and a sportsman, to know that the apparent cause of his death was a surfeit of partridges after a successful September's Day shooting at Rosings. To Lady Catherine's annoyance, however, he expired in the midst of 12 guests at dinner. What with directing several guests attempt to revive Sir Lewis and trying to protect the new Turkey carpet in the dining room, even Lady Catherine had more than she could do that evening.
But Lady Catherine recovered from the shock of Sir Lewis's passing in a few short weeks, and settled very comfortably into her large role as Mistress of Rosings. Nothing in the wide extent of her lands, from the hops gardens to the number of bells worn by the local Morris dancers, escaped her scrutiny. No household, agricultural, or even ecclesiastical matter was allowed to pass without her decided intervention and castigation.
Thus ends our look at Lady Catherine's illustrious background before she enters the pages of Pride and Prejudice. There are backstories for 16 other characters, from Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy to Mrs. Bennet and Mr. Collins, in the Austen Alliance ebook, What Jane Austen Didn't Tell Us. Again, here is the print copy showing the same cover as you will see on the ebook. And the ebook is available from both Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Lisa, I trust we have time for a few questions and answers if people want to ask.
Yes, we do. Please just raise your hand via chat if you'd like to ask a question. Oh, but first, before we do that, let's have a round of applause. You can unmute yourselves and have a round of applause for our actors, writers, and directors.
Yay!
Ah!
Yay!
Very good, very good.
Bravo.
Nicely
Well
done.
done.
Bravo.
Well done.
All right. So if anybody has any questions, let me know or raise your hand through the raise hand function, which is near your name in the list.
And I see some are already coming into chat, so I think they are. So
Let's see.
I think if you are having trouble finding the button, if you have any questions, you can probably unmute yourself and ask a question. It looks like Leslie has a question, Lisa.
Yeah, I did. And Marie, thank you. I enjoyed that very much. What was your inspiration for the schoolmaster quoting all his Latin?
Remember that this is an adaptation of the story, and the brilliant touch of the schoolmaster in his Latin is Bob's. I can't take credit for it.
Oh, okay.
As it is about half the Italian and Bob's wonderful performances, the music.
I would say this, there was recently a New York Times crossword puzzle that required most of the Latin we ordinarily know in the course of our lives. So a lot of that Latin, not that I use it in speech, but we do know what a lot of that, we already know a lot of that. And I just thought if it was the Latin teacher, it would be fun to use it.
It was a lot of fun.
And it did show Mr. Rottenstall as a slightly pompous ass, so.
It says one person asked if there's any way to get a print version of the book.
Sadly, the print run was very limited. It was confined almost entirely to contributors to the book. Remember that this was a labor of love, and you know, with slender finances behind it, it is currently available only as an ebook. Linda, Jean, anybody else, if you want to add to that, or if I'm misrepresenting anything, please do.
If it's an ebook, does somebody read it?
No, it's an electronic book, Bob. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
No, not an audio book, an ebook.
I got it.
This is Linda Dennery. This was so much fun. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Good. The book is available as an ebook from Amazon and Barnes and Noble, and it's great. I believe it can also be available as print on demand, but I'm not sure about that. But the ebook is available, and you can read it if you can use your device to watch this performance. You can use your device to read the book. So it's readily available. I think you'll enjoy it. I love the young lady, Catherine. She was hilarious in print and in person. Marie, I wanted to ask you about your names. I love names of characters, and I'd love to know, I love Milksop, but I'd love to know where you got all those names.
That's an easy one. I followed the method that Oscar Wilde is said to have followed in naming, characters in Lady Windermere's Fan. I plopped out my Atlas of Northern England and started pulling names off the map right and left. Almost all those names are randomly chosen place names. The only choice that was not random is Sprotborough, because I have it on the authority of an unrelated Sprayberry who has done much more research into the family than I ever will, that Sprayberry is a corruption long ago of Sprotborough. In other words, we came from the village of Sprotborough in Yorkshire.
So cool.
So that's my little personal link to the play.
Okay. I think Meg has a question.
Yes, well, it's not a question. I was working on my to be commended list during the performance. First of all the performances were terrific. Marie, I would say you were born to play Lady Catherine, but I'm not sure if that's an insult or a compliment. But I definitely.
What do you think?
But I really want to commend the floating mustache. That did an excellent job.
And Jane's and Jameson's, changing headgear.
Yeah, that's great. It was great.
I like the mortarboard from Mr. Rottenstall.
Yeah, right. Oh, very good.
Okay. While I have Meg on here, I need to give her credit for another idea in the story and the play. Lady Catherine's to-do lists were her idea. We were working in the early stages of putting together the book. Meg and I were working together, and Meg suggested the to-do lists. So credit where credit's due, chum.
Yay, Meg. All right, I think Carlotta has a question.
Marie, I wanted to know how long did it take you to write the book, and where did you write it? At home, in the library, bookstore? Where did you write it, and how long did it take you to write?
The whole ebook project had its origins, if I'm remembering correctly, at the March 2015 meeting of Jasna, New York Metro. I was visiting Meg at that point and attended that meeting. And that was sadly the last time I was able to visit the city. And the minute this was brought up, I confess I jumped up and down and waved my arms and said, me, I want Lady Catherine. Writing the first draft came as easily as anything I've ever written in my life. And remember, I'm primarily an editor, not a writer. It took some time working together with the other members of the ebook team to make sure that all our stories hung together chronologically and in names and other details. That part of it took some working out. I believe the total time on the ebook project from start to finish was about 1.5 years, 2 years. Then, as far as the play is concerned, Bob and I both owe the excellent Jean Gill a debt of gratitude. Jean is a very old friend of Bob's, and she had the idea that dramatizing one of the stories might be a good way to give a little more publicity and currency to the ebook. And Bob still lives here in the Syracuse area. And he paid, we have only met in person once, believe it or not. He paid a call here in June of 2018 to discuss the project. And he ended up taking the lion's share of the work on the adaptation because I had a few life issues at that point that were getting in the way. So we were originally planning it to be more of a collaboration than it was, but Bob gallantly stepped in and filled the gap for me.
Thank you. By the way, did Lady Catherine de Bourgh, did it say anywhere in Pride and Prejudice that Mr. de Bourgh died at age 50, what was it, 56?
No, I just pulled that detail off the top of my head.
Oh.
She has definitely been a widow for a good many years by the time that we meet her in the novel.
Yeah, okay. And I enjoyed how forceful Lady Catherine was.
Leave your hand up from before.
I enjoyed how Lady Catherine was so forceful, even as a child. I like the portrayal you did of her. Well, that you all did of her. It was very good.
Didn't Lisa pick absolutely the right 18th century child illustration to go with the blog post? Have we gotten all the questions there might have been out of chat, Lisa?
Okay, was there question?
Something's wrong with your sound. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think we're losing Lisa.
Are you going to, I just wanted to ask another follow-up. It's Carlotta. Are you planning to do anything else with this play?
I believe the intention is to make the play available to other Jasna regions for performance. Again, Jean, Linda, and Linda from the Austen Alliance might be the better people to ask about that.
I'm sorry, maybe there's bad connection.
Something's wrong with your mic, Lisa. It's very, I can't understand you.
This is Linda again, speaking for the Austen Alliance. It's been more than a year, I think, with COVID, of course. It's been some year, but we did, in fact, contact the regional coordinators of Jasna to let them know about the play and to make it available to them. At one point, the New York metro region wanted to do the play, and then we ran into COVID. So I'm not sure where that stands with New York Metro now, but we would be delighted for any region to take it up because it's really fun to do. And you all did a swell job of it. It was just great fun.
And I should add that among the many casualties of the pandemic was the performance New York Metro was planning to give of it. I remember correctly, Linda?
That's right. That's right. There's always hope and time. And as we know, Austen and Lady Catherine are timeless.
They'll still
it'll work
there whenever all this is over.
Yeah, that's right. It'll be something wonderful and fun to do. You all seem to be having a very good time. Did you rehearse? How did you rehearse for this?
We've only had 2 rehearsals. One after the our CWNY February meeting, and the other just before this meeting, due to everybody's schedules and especially mine. Those were the only 2 time periods that were available.
Well, it would seem very smooth.
Yeah.
Considering that Bob is the only professional among us, I didn't think we did badly.
It's great. It really is fun. I don't know technically how you switched cameras, but it did work. You know, when we were going from character to character, I was kind of expecting you would all be on the screen together and be talking heads at different times, but at least on my screen, it was one at a time. So we really got to see you and your costumes and your facial expressions very well.
Yeah,
made it very personal.
Zoom having that speaker view option, it really does.
Really nice. Really nice.
Good idea, Aniela. Thank you for suggesting that.
All right. Can everybody hear me at this point?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, you're back.
Okay. Well, it's Aniela told me to turn off my camera, and it seemed to work. So I will ask if anybody has any other questions.
Yes, I do. It's Carlotta again.
Hi, Carlotta.
Hi, Lisa. I wanted to know how Jameson did that with the hat and the mustache.
The mustache, yes. I'd like to know that too.
Always in place. I was wondering how he worked that.
That's a Zoom feature where you can change sorry, it's a Zoom feature where you can change the different backgrounds and add little things to it. You should be able to do that too on your own when, like in your video in the bottom left corner where it says like mute or stop video.
Yeah.
There's a little arrow or triangle. You click on that and then you can choose video filter.
Hey, we could have used that theater frame.
Yeah, so you can change it to whatever.
Oh, okay.
Or like
is that what they
it.
were using when that attorney famously couldn't change out of a cat?
It was a Snapchat. That was a Snapchat filter, but yeah, it was related. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say you all did such a good job, and Ella, you were great. You were all great. You really were.
Thank you, kind audience. Jameson's still doing it with the hat.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, I can't figure out how to turn it
that's
off.
a good one.
Yeah. Oh, there's Aniela.
The beret.